was 6:47 a.m. when the iron doors of Block D creaked open.
Officer Raymond Harris adjusted his badge and took a deep breath. For most guards, this was just another day at the state penitentiary. But for Harris, today felt different, tense, almost heavy. The past few weeks, something had been off inside Block D. There were whispers, coded messages scrawled on meal trays, and a few inmates suddenly refusing to eat. And every time Harris made his rounds, he noticed one man, Derek Cole, watching him from his cell, calm but alert, like he knew something no one else did. Raymond had been a correctional officer for 12 years. He wasn't one of the bad ones, the kind who enjoyed intimidation or power. He was firm but fair. Still, in a place like this, fairness didn't always keep you safe. Last week, another officer, his friend Jenkins, was found unconscious in the laundry room. Internal reports called it a workplace accident, but the inmates knew. Everyone knew. Jenkins was attacked. What scared Harris most wasn't the attack itself. It was that no one could explain how the inmate responsible managed to disappear from surveillance footage during the incident. As Harris moved down the tier that morning, he stopped by Derek's cell. The inmate sat on his bunk, eyes steady, hands folded, a small Bible open beside him. "Good morning, Cole," Harris said cautiously. "Good morning, officer," Derek replied. Then he leaned forward and added, "You shouldn't be here today." Harris froze. What's that supposed to mean? Derek didn't blink. "I heard them last night. They're planning something. A message needs to be sent, and you're the message." Harris laughed it off at first. He'd heard threats before, but there was something in Derek's tone, a quiet urgency that didn't sound like manipulation or fear. When Harris reported it to his supervisor, Captain Monroe, he was brushed off immediately. "Cole's just playing mind games, Harris. Don't feed into it. Do your job." But that night, Harris couldn't shake the feeling that Derek was telling the truth. And when the alarms blared the next day during shift change, he knew this wasn't coincidence. The riot broke out fast, too fast. Smoke, shouting, metal clanging. Inmates flooding the corridor, guards calling for backup. Harris found himself cornered near the east gate, the same section Derek was assigned to clean the next morning. Someone had cut the power to the lights. As Harris reached for his radio, he heard footsteps approaching, slow, deliberate, echoing through the darkness. Then, out of nowhere, a hand grabbed him and pulled him into a supply room. "Stay down," a voice whispered. It was Derek. Outside, chaos raged, but Derek stayed calm, eyes darting between the door and the officer. "They set you up," he said. "You were supposed to be isolated when it started. Somebody wanted you gone." Harris's mind raced. "Why are you helping me?" Derek hesitated. "Because I know what it's like to be blamed for something you didn't do." For the next 20 minutes, the two stayed hidden as the prison went into lockdown. When SWAT finally cleared the area, Derek stood up slowly and said, "You won't believe me now, but there's someone inside the staff feeding information to the gangs. That's how they knew where you'd be." Before Harris could respond, the door burst open, officers stormed in, shouting. Derek was thrown to the ground and cuffed. Harris tried to speak up, but no one listened. All they saw was a prisoner and a guard in the same locked room during a riot. As Derek was dragged away, he looked back and said quietly, "Check Jenkins' locker, the truth's in there." Harris didn't understand what that meant then. But within 48 hours, he'd find something that would change everything. A trail of evidence leading not to inmates, but to officers themselves. And one of them was someone Harris trusted. 2 days after the riot, the prison felt quieter than usual. Pause 1 second. Too quiet. Officer Raymond Harris walked through the dim hallway of Block D, his boots echoing against the concrete floor. Every sound, every flicker of light felt heavier now. He hadn't slept properly since the incident. The image of Derek Cole being dragged away, shouting about Jenkins' locker, haunted him. Those words replayed in his head every few hours. Check Jenkins' locker. The truth's in there. That morning, he waited until most officers were in the cafeteria. Then he made his move. Inside the staff room, Jenkins's locker was still sealed with police tape. Harris hesitated, but curiosity won. He peeled the tape back and opened it. At first, it looked ordinary. Uniform, personal photos, a couple of letters. But behind the false bottom of the locker, something glinted under the light. A USB drive. Later that night, Harris sat alone in his car in the parking lot, engine off, laptop open. He inserted the USB and waited. A single folder appeared, reports_delivery_log. Inside, dozens of files, internal schedules, officer shift patterns, patrol maps, and communications logs. But what shocked Harris most was a list labeled payment transfers. The recipients, half of them were inmate account numbers. The senders, staff YDs, and one name stood out immediately, Captain Monroe. Realization of the conspiracy. Harris sat there frozen. His superior, the man who dismissed Derek's warning, was moving money into inmate accounts under fake names. Each payment was followed by short encrypted messages. Phrases like, "Gate access ready," "Target isolated," "Delivery confirmed." Then Harris noticed a file labeled Operation D47, Final. The date on it matched the day of the riot. Inside was a detailed plan of guard positions, camera rotations, and power cut schedules, all timed to the minute. The same pattern as the riot. And under target, his own name, Officer R. Harris. The next morning, Harris walked into Captain Monroe's office, pretending to be calm. Officer Harris said, "Morning, Captain." Captain Monroe responded, "Morning, Harris. You good?" Officer Harris said, "Trying to be. Still thinking about the riots." Speaker, Captain Monroe. "Forget it. Internal Affairs cleared it. Just another inmate stunt." Speaker, Officer Harris. "Funny, because the files on Jenkins's locker tell a different story." Speaker, Captain Monroe. "What files?" Speaker, Officer Harris. "The ones that show inmate payments." shift maps, power cuts. You were on every one of them. Speaker, Captain Monroe. Careful, officer. You're walking into something you don't understand. That night, Harris's phone rang. A private number. He hesitated before answering. An unknown, distorted voice said, "You're being watched, Officer Harris. Keep quiet if you want to keep breathing." Then the line cut. The following morning, Harris requested permission to see Derek Cole. He told the warden he wanted to question him about the riot. Inside the small visitation room, Derek sat in cuffs, calm as always. When he saw Harris, he nodded slowly. Officer Harris spoke. "You said there's truth in Jenkins's locker. You were right." Derek Cole responded. "Then you saw it." Monroe's name was all over it. "And now you understand why I saved you." Then Officer Harris said, "But why me?" Derek Cole replied, "Because you're the only one who still does his job with a conscience. The rest, they're bought." There's a network, officers running contraband, setting up accidents, even killing witnesses. Jenkins found out and tried to expose it. That's why they silenced him. Officer Harris said, "You're saying Monroe ordered it?" "Yes," Derek Cole replied. "And now he's setting you up to take the fall for the riot. They'll say you helped stage it with me." That night, Harris returned home and locked every door. From his living room window, he noticed a black car parked across the street. Engine off, lights off, just sitting there. He pretended not to see it, but he felt every second of the driver's stare. The next day, a notice came to his locker. Report to Internal Affairs. Investigation inquiry. Harris knew exactly what that meant. They were turning it back on him. He copied the USB data onto another drive and hid it in his house. Then, before leaving for work, he called a friend, Officer Kelly, the only one he still trusted. Officer Harris said, "If anything happens to me, there's a flash drive under my floor vent. Find it." Officer Kelly said, "Ray, what's going on?" Officer Harris said, "Just promise me."
By 3 p.m., Harris was in the Internal Affairs room. Monroe was there, along with 2 other officers he didn't recognize. The air was thick with tension. Captain Monroe spoke and said, "Officer Harris, we've received reports suggesting you had unauthorized communication with inmate Derek Cole during the riot. You were found in the same room with him. Any reason we shouldn't consider you an accomplice?" Officer Harris replied, "With all due respect, Captain, that inmate saved my life. He wasn't part of it." Captain Monroe again said, "Sure he did." Then he slid a file across the table. Inside were photos, grainy stills of Harris and Derek in the supply room. But the timestamps had been altered, showing Harris arriving before the riot began. Evidence had been fabricated. What happened next? The recording proved everything. The corruption went all the way up, but before Harris could send it to the press, his computer shut down. His phone, dead. A cold knock echoed at his door. "Officer Harris," a familiar voice called out. "We need to talk about Derek Cole. The same man who saved him might now destroy him." Watch out for the continuation of this story. Coming soon, only on Undercover Crime Files.